This is Wink Tracks the Tropics, powered by the Weather Authority.
When the tropics are active, timing is everything. The Weather Authority is keeping you prepared.
The latest update did come in from the National Hurricane Center. Helene moving north-northeast. Winds have increased up to 90 miles per hour.
Keeping you informed.
It's now 170 miles northwest of us, and as we had mentioned, this is a major Cat 4 hurricane. This is going to have major landfall implications.
Southwest Florida has seen its fair share of storms in the past few years.
We are leaving immediately after this because it is not safe. You're starting to see some of these debris, sticks flying up and out, and it's one of the reasons why Sanibel is evacuated. It clearly is not safe out here.
But our slice of paradise has bounced back in ways we'd never expect.
It was tough.
We had each other, and that's a good thing.
I wouldn't have made it without Marianne. We're gonna make it, though. We're gonna make it.
Wink News has been there with you every step of the way, and that won't change.
Yes, we avoid the worst part of the storm, but the wind field's growing and the pressures are deepening. We're going to feel more of that influence on the back end with the surge.
From forecast cones to important safety reminders, the Weather Authority has you covered. You're watching Wink Tracks the Tropics. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Wink Tracks the Tropics. I'm Wink's Weather Authority, Val Simpson. And the question on everyone's mind is, what is happening in the Caribbean? Well, in this episode, we're going to talk about, I have good news for you. I have really good news and then some questionable news. And that's why we have our panel of Mets that we're going to be discussing with. But of course, before we do that, I want to remind everybody that this is an interactive platform. What that means is that if you're watching us on YouTube or on our Facebook page, you can leave your questions for our panel of Mets. You can also comment where you're watching us from. And of course, like always, answer this question, which is our question of the day. What is a weather myth that you grew up believing and later learned it wasn't true? I'll go first. I grew up believing that there was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and that was not true. That's a joke, but let's go ahead and punch in our groups of Mets. What's up, everybody? How's everyone doing? Happy Thursday.
Hey, Happy Thursday.
Happy to have you all on today's episode. What do you guys think about this? Did any of you grow up with a weather myth?
Yeah, mine was definitely heat lightning.
Oh, darn it, man.
That was
mine.
I mean, that was a huge thing growing up in Florida at the beach or when we were on the boat, and my dad would always be like, oh, there's heat lightning off in the distance. No, it's just lightning far away.
I literally thought the same thing, but I thought, my mom said this to me. She was like, oh, when too many people use their air conditioning.
What?
Yeah, there's heat lightning.
She lied.
And of course I believe it, right? And then all of a sudden,
oh, that's funny.
I go to college and I'm like, I guess that's not the case.
No, that was like the #1 thing that they debunked.
Nikki, how about you? Any myths?
There is one that I always thought was interesting. When I was in high school, I took a meteorology class, which it's what got me interested in doing the weather. But I had a professor, and he was talking about how people during a hurricane will tape their windows in an X. And he's like, that doesn't do anything. Like, you're just marking yourself as like the house that's going to get the windows blown out or something.
Yeah.
So I always thought that was funny. And then I started to notice that more people do that. And I was like, I don't know what the reasoning is for that, but put shutters up, not taped X's.
Nikki, it's funny that you mentioned that because every time I research before the show for a weather or a hurricane prep tip, there's a lot of websites that suggest doing tape around your windows, I guess to prevent shattering or something. But now here in Southwest Florida, we have the hurricane-proof windows. So it's like, we don't really need to worry about that.
I'd be lying if I didn't say that we have these really tall windows and like 20 years ago, which actually crazy. I think for Wilma, which is like 20 years ago in a couple days, we put the X's with tape. Yeah, we did. And it's actually still there.
Like,
Don't tell me.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not 100% on that one.
Oh, well, we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Well, we don't want to see if it works or not, so
No.
We'll leave it there. We'll leave that conversation there. We are getting some messages coming in right now. This is from Michael Morrow. He says, happy Thursday. So happy Thursday, everybody, from Mike. Where are you watching us from, Mike? Let us know. All right, why don't we get started? I'm going to give you guys a little recap of what we're watching here right now, what we're all working on, and it's a lot of great news to start off with. I want to go ahead and punch my first graphic here so that you can see this. And yeah, there is no development expected over the next 7 days, and we can all rejoice on that great news. Lorenzo, like we said yesterday, was on his last leg, and finally today, it's no longer in the Atlantic. So that's always good news. So for the next few days, we can pretty much relax. But if you're on social media scrolling, you probably have seen all the chatter and all the talk about that tropical wave that is in the Atlantic moving west. And that's kind of where we're going to put our energy into today's episode. However, what does that really mean? Too much is uncertain at this point because there is such a long way away from this event. So we have to be patient. One of the things that I love that meteorologist Josh always says is that just check in about once a day at this point to know, what's happening or what's going on. Is it something that we should be worried and concerned about? Not really, not at this time. So I do want to start off before I share any of the models or anything. So this right here is the updated Climate Prediction Center's extended tropical outlook. And what they're saying is that there is a low to medium chance that something could develop in this region where you see that yellow blob anywhere between October 23rd and October 28th. This is what right now they're marking or indicating. And based on that, that is where this tropical wave comes in, because there is a possibility, as far as some of the models right now saying, that there could be something developing in this region. What it is at this point, not 100% certain of that. We can't talk intensity, and we can't even talk any type of track because it hasn't even formed it hasn't even gotten to the Caribbean. But because there's a lot of chatter on social, we are tackling it. And we have been looking and studying some of the models. I'm going to use some of the most relevant ones that we use. This is the GFS, the American model. As you can see, and I want to just make it really clear, this is now 10 days away. When you're this far in advance and you're looking at predictions so far in advance, it's really hard to be able to speak with certainty, right? As we get closer to the event, that's when we will be able to feel more comfortable in the forecast. And also, we look for agreement, consensus in the different models. And I want to point out a couple of differences that we're seeing as we're studying these models. The American model, which is the one that we're showing right now, notice how there is a little bit of spin right here. We're talking now, this is 10 days away. Notice how there is some formation. This is basically right over the Dominican Republic and Haiti, as you can see. And I want to show you this because we're going to compare it with the European model. And it's a little, it's different. It's not necessarily saying that either. It seems like the GFS is a little bit quicker in developing something. The Euro takes a little bit more time as of right now. And this, again, 10 days out, we're talking about. Look at the difference, okay, from the GFS to the European model. This maybe looks more like a broad area of low pressure. Yes, a lot of rain. Perhaps we're not seeing that much spin. And also I want you to notice how it's actually forming not so close to what is the Dominican Republic and Haiti. It's almost south of Cuba at this point, closer to Central America as well. I do want to share, because one of the things when you're comparing, it really does help when you're seeing things side by side. So I want to share this graphic where we have both models basically showing really what I just explained to you. So the American model showing a area of circulation, perhaps something more developed. You could see it in the green over Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and then the European model closer to what Central America and south of Cuba at that. So again, something we look for always, because when there is agreement or consensus in the models, that just increases the chances of it actually happening or developing. So one of the things that we are noticing is that in the Caribbean, definitely sea surface temperatures, the energy is there, the warmth of the water, but it takes so much more than that. That's not just the one thing. But I'm assuming that these models, the American and the GFS, are taking this as one of the ingredients in order to try to form something. So with that being said, I just want to remind everybody that the next name on the list is Melissa. So what does this mean for us here in Southwest Florida? Nothing right now. We're just too far away from this event. We're too far away from it making it into the Caribbean. So we have the next 7 days, 7 to 8 days, maybe even longer, where we can just relax and tune in once at least a day to know what's happening in the tropics. Let's go ahead and punch in our panel of Mets. Guys, thoughts? What do you think? Are we too early to be tracking this? Is once a day enough? And, you know, could we see any implications for Southwest Florida?
Well, I think that, first of all, like you were saying, 10 days out is still a very long time to be watching a system, but also we still don't have anything that's developed, so the models have a hard time grasping that. So those are a couple of factors that could lead to, you know, a high inaccuracy of, you know, what we're currently seeing. But like you were saying, that Josh reminds everybody, check in once a day. That's a great idea, because as we get closer to that forecast period and as we get closer to the time frame of something actually developing, then we will have a much better idea of what the system intensity could be and where it could be heading.
100%, 100%. I agree with that. Guys, what are your thoughts? Anything to add to that in terms of what we're seeing, or tell me about, you know, the models. We're seeing that they're both kind of hinting, as far as the European and the GFS, that something could develop in the Caribbean?
And that's another reason why we're actually talking about it, right? If there was no hints of anything down the road, then there'd be no reasons, you know, waste our time and try to guess, oh, something might be here, this and that. But you look at these conventional physics-based models, that's your GFS, your Euro, there's a Canadian out there, there's an ICON model as well. Those all are hinting at some tropical development in the Caribbean. You've also got the new AI models, including the Google AI model. That one is also hinting at some development. So the reason that we're talking about this is because all of these different models are kind of showing some sort of development in the Caribbean. Now, if you want to know where's it going, how strong is it going to be? Well, we can't tell you that when we're about 7 to 10 days out, right? We're just looking at hints of something. Now, you mentioned, Val, you've got warm water down there. The shear won't be too bad. So the environmental conditions are there for something to develop, but we also have a real possibility that nothing develops at all. So again, this is going to be a big patience game. We're enjoying the quiet period while it's here. And another thing that we've noticed in terms of these model trends, and Oceana, you guys might be able to add on this as well, is that the timing of it all keeps getting pushed back, right? So let's say earlier this week, like on Monday, it was looking like something was going to be developing this upcoming Monday. Now you look at the models, and both the GFS, the European, they don't want anything to actually come together into an organized tropical system until late next week, maybe even next weekend. So when that happens, sometimes the models are overanalyzing, and when you start to see the date of formation get pushed back, that is typically a good thing. And eventually, sometimes, all of a sudden, you see that it doesn't develop anything at all. So it just goes to show there's a lot of things that we're watching, and the concern meter is still low just because of how far out we are.
Yeah, to reiterate what Josh was saying about how the models are not super consistent, and what we look for as far as this far out is consistency, because that breeds confidence. Now, the thing that is completely inconsistent with between all of the models and their own ensembles is the track, and also between models, the intensity. The only thing that is kind of sparking somewhat of a consistency is going to be the chance for development, whether that be just a low pressure, broad area of low pressure, or whether that be a tropical storm. A development is the only thing that is somewhat consistent at this point, but like he said, the farther we keep pushing this back, that's kind of a good sign for us here and everywhere in terms of if this is even going to make it that far in terms of making it even into the Caribbean.
Good job. Guys, let's talk hypothetical at this point, right? And we mentioned this yesterday. We were saying how fronts now start coming down and start pushing through, and that could actually be a steering positive for us here in Southwest Florida. And we mentioned that a little bit. In regards to this system, let's, again, hypothetically, if something were to develop, now that we are in front season, basically, do you think that that would actually play in our favor here at Florida, here in Southwest Florida?
Well, I think if it's, if the European model is what we're following, let's say this wave develops as it moves across the Atlantic, and then it starts to develop and become actual system as it gets towards Central America, it wouldn't be an issue for us with if whether we had a front or not, because it's going to be heading towards Central America. But if we did have a frontal boundary, like we've talked about in previous weeks, it would lead to some increase in shear, which is not great for storms, and it would block the state of Florida. But I think, like, regardless of having that front or not, with this current track, it shouldn't be an issue for us.
Yeah, That's a good point. Yeah, we were saying how yesterday we were mentioning exactly, you know, how it could provide shear also, and that would be something that, you know, that conversation ends there at that point. In regards to then, what can we expect for the remainder of the season? Because here we are, middle of October. We really didn't see any type of development in the Gulf, which is kind of rare for this time of year. What could we expect for the next 2 weeks? We have, well, the next week, we know that we're good. We're in the clear. We're going to be monitoring and watching this for getting close to that last week of October. But other than that, anything else that we should be watching?
No, luckily this is the only thing on our radar, at least through the end of October, right? And once you get into late season, that's typically how it goes, right? You see one area of interest pop up every, you know, other week or so, all right? There's really not a lot of activity at that point. In fact, you know, the National Hurricane Center, a lot of folks wait for them to actually tag it as an area of interest. We showed you the yellow blob in the Caribbean. That's not actually an area of interest. That's from the Climate Prediction Center. Val explained that. They give outlooks that are 2 to 3 weeks in advance. So because this system doesn't have a chance of developing over the next 7 days, National Hurricane Center hasn't even tagged it yet. Now, if you join us, let's say next Monday, and the models continue on this consistency, then yes, you're likely going to see the National Hurricane Center tag it in that area. But do I expect them to tag anything else at least through October 31st? Likely not.
Right. That's good. That's good. That's what we want to. We were talking about what we were rating so far this hurricane season yesterday, and I saw a lot of really high grades there. It was 8.5 from Lauren. We got a 9 from Zach. And definitely, yeah, it's been a great season for us. We did talk about, we looked into, and this is a question that I got on social media from one of our viewers. They were asking, has there ever been a season where there was no hurricane landfalls? And in fact, there's been many seasons where there hasn't been hurricane hits directly impacting the United States. That doesn't include tropical storms. For instance, Oceana, you brought up that this year, even though we haven't had any hurricane hits, Chantal was one that early on in the season that affected the Carolinas. Isn't that right?
Yeah, I don't remember if it exactly made landfall as a tropical storm, but I know that it did bring some minor impacts to the Carolinas, and that was super early on. It was one of the, I mean, it was the third storm that we'd kind of been looking at.
And when we talk about, you know, landfalls and impacts, because I think that the question that one of the viewers sent me was impacts. And I said, well, we've seen impacts. We've seen high surf. We've had rip current advisories also because of some of these systems getting so close to our East Coast, but not necessarily a direct hit. So is it completely, you know, possible that we might have a season without any direct hits? Could be. Don't want to jinx it. I'm looking for wood because I'm like trying to knock on stuff. Yeah, Andrew is knocking here with me. But yeah, it's not something that would be rare, not at all. At the same time, I do want to mention that we've seen a lot of systems, a lot of hurricanes, a lot of systems that formed into hurricanes and intensified rapidly at that. And major hurricanes as well. So in terms of, you know, the thing is that I think that people sometimes associated with, well, if they didn't make landfall or they didn't affect me, then this was a slow season. But we are pretty much right on track where the National Hurricane Center estimated, where NOAA estimated, as well as Colorado State, right? And is that something that you guys can?
I think we're probably on the lower end of their estimation.
Yeah.
Let's do it, right?
I think I can pull it up because I think I have it here.
Yeah, go for it.
But I think that.
And again, Val, while you pull that up, you made a great point that sometimes, you know, there can be seasons where there's only one storm that impacts us, and that's a busy season. There could be only 5 other storms out there. It's going to be busy. 2022 is absolutely an example of that. And then there can be other seasons where you could have 20 named storms, and if they don't impact where you are, you're likely going to consider it a slow season. All right, so again, it's all about perspective when it comes to those preseason predictions. That's why we treat every hurricane season exactly the same.
And I guess a good reminder is that, you know, it only really takes one to be an awful season. It doesn't really matter how many more are there. We were talking yesterday about 2020 being a hurricane season packed full of hurricanes and storms. We went through 2 of the name lists. We had at the time the first one, which was the names list, and then the second one, which was the Greek alphabet, and we ran out of those as well. So yeah, definitely that's something. I can't find the predictions right now to see where we're at, but I do believe we have 12 storms right now, and I think they were between, I know it's always a range, and I think it was 13 to 16, something like that. I think that's what it is. All right, guys, we are running out of time, and I know we have some segments right now. Okay, let's go ahead and Oceana, I know that you have something prepared for us. Here, what's this that I see?
I know, drum roll, please. We've got the quarter test. No, I've mentioned this a few times. Actually, I think we've mentioned it every single day since I did this last time. So if you don't know what it is, I'll tell you about it. But this is a pretty common thing that a lot of folks do. And despite what Josh thinks, but he does know now. So let's talk about the quarter test. So this is something that you could do before you leave your home during a hurricane. So if you're expecting a power outage like you would if there was a big storm, you're going to want to put a quarter on a cup of ice and put that cup of ice with the quarter on top in your freezer. So after that the power has returned, after you come back to your house, you're going to take a look at your cup. So if the quarter's on the very top of the ice, that means the power wasn't out for long. The ice is still frozen. Your food should still be good in the freezer and in your refrigerator as well. Now, if the quarter's all the way on the bottom, well, then your power was out for a significant amount of time. Food is no good. I would throw it all out, throw out your refrigerator, your freezer. This is basically if you really don't want to empty out your fridge and your freezer before you leave for a hurricane or any storm. And then if the quarter's somewhere in the middle, well, your freezer's probably safe because that means that the power wasn't out for too long, but the freshness of your fridge is probably pretty iffy. So just throw things out there. But this is a fun one, and I really like this graphic too, so it's fun to show. But the quarter test, keep it in mind and give it a try. And if you have tried it, I know a lot of you have, let us know what you thought and if your quarter was on the bottom or the top.
You know, it's even a good tip. Let's if you're going out of town, right? Let's say you're not even it's not even a hurricane. You're just going out of town for like 4 days. And there's been a couple times where I've come back and the power's off for some reason.
Yes.
Crazier things have happened. So, you know, if you want to have a little fun, do the quarter test.
Yes, yes. I will be doing it next time.
I won't.
Well, hopefully we won't have to, guys. But maybe when we're out of town, I prefer that instead of. Guys, Michael Morrow was telling me that he's from Fort Myers, so shout out to everybody watching from Fort Myers. Remember that we are live right now, taking your questions, taking your comments. Let us know where you're watching from, and if you like Oceana's tip, the quarter tip, I know a lot of people in Southwest Florida are all for it. And with that, let's move on to Josh. Josh, I know that you have a special weather watcher picture to show us.
Yeah, speaking of the residents of Southwest Florida, if you guys were out and about early this morning, if you looked up in the sky, maybe you saw something like this and said, what in the world is going on there? Well, a lot of our amazing weather watchers did the same thing. They took a picture and sent it to us. This one courtesy of Michael. I believe he was in the Northwest Cape. So thank you for sending this one in. Now, of course, the question is, what is this? This is called a noctilucent cloud. A little bit hard to pronounce, but I think I got it down after this morning. What this is, if you want to switch to the explainer, is actually we had a SpaceX rocket launch this morning. I believe it was around 5:30 a.m. from Cape Canaveral. Now, when the skies are clear, especially early in the morning, sometimes we can get a view of the frozen plume of the fuel from the rocket's exhaust. Because as these rockets get higher and higher, remember our atmosphere drops below 32 degrees. So that plume actually begins to freeze. It becomes ice crystals like all of those upper level clouds are. And therefore, you can see it from pretty far away all the way down here in Southwest Florida. So I just thought that was really cool, and we just had a bunch of pictures come in this morning, and it's not the first time this has happened. Any morning where there's generally clear skies, light winds, you're likely going to see those noctilucent clouds if there is a rocket launch.
Yeah, that's really cool. All these Wink Weather Watchers have been sending us tons of pictures on that. We can see them on the Facebook group. So thank you for that. And this is a reminder that if you want to become a Wink Weather Watcher, you can do so by going to our website, winknews.com. You'll find the link. You can fill it out. It'll have you sign a release so that we can use your pictures and videos. And also it'll give you access to an exclusive private Facebook group where you can exchange videos and pictures of all the great things that happen around Southwest Florida regarding weather. And sometimes not even weather, anniversaries, stuff like that we like to know. Very good. Okay, I know that up next, Nikki, you have Science in 60 Seconds. We've been baptizing this segment with a new name since this morning. We've been calling it Weather in 60. But yeah, I told Nikki whatever you prefer. And but here we go. Nikki, go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, well, it's something in 60 seconds. And so I thought this was fitting for today and really over the coming days because we're going to be dealing with some really beautiful conditions in place. Not only do we have that dry air hanging around, but in the upper levels of the atmosphere, we have high pressure building in. And so this is when we tend to see some quieter conditions. So what happens is high pressure leads to sinking motion in the atmosphere. Remember, for showers and storms to develop, you need rising motion. So that subsidence leads to quieter conditions at the surface. We tend to see plenty of sunshine around this time frame, but also as that air sinks, it compresses and it leads to temperatures heating up at the surface. So that's why our temperatures have still been pretty close to seasonal despite getting a northerly flow, getting this drier air filtered in because of this high pressure sitting overhead. Now, the reasoning that temperatures heat up is think about science class in elementary school when you think about the molecules. As they're being compressed together, they're moving around very quickly, bouncing into each other, and that leads to temperatures heating up. That leads to that parcel of air heating up, and that's why you tend to have warmer temperatures when it comes to high pressure sitting overhead. So I do have in this graphic high pressure in the upper levels of the atmosphere for this morning. You can see it is a bit to the northwest of us, but you will notice how that high is going to be sinking closer to the sunshine state, the center of that circulation, closer to us as we head into our Friday morning. So we're expecting, again, some really nice conditions over the next couple of days still.
Oh, wow. So this means that it's going to be an amazing weekend for Halloween activities.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I know I'm trying to head out to the pumpkin patch on Friday. I think it's going to be a gorgeous evening to do so. Maybe if you have to do some decorating, you don't have to worry about the rain.
Yeah, I think so. Yes. So if you don't have plans, and hold on a second, where are you headed this afternoon? You said that you had a...
I'm going to be heading out to 6 Mile Cypress Slough.
Yeah.
To the wetlands there. So tune in to Wink News at 3 and 6 to find out why.
You got to tune in because that place is
excited.
crazy. I thought it was going to be full of gators and snakes, but Nikki, you said you didn't see any, did you?
Nope, I saw an owl. And I
That's
saw
fine.
some fish.
We'll take that.
That's good.
I was
Friendly.
very happy about that.
Yeah.
Love fish, love fish. But that's great, Nikki, yes. And also, I mean, if you don't have plans this weekend, they have a really cool boardwalk, right? Like a little way. Greg Rule was telling us about that yesterday. It's a fun activity to do with the family, just walk around, right?
Yeah, it's beautiful. And you can even sign up for some guided tours so that people can walk you through, tell you about the nature that you're encountering. It's a lot more comfortable, I think, on the boardwalk, but you can also experience a wet walk like what I did. You'll have to go to the website to find out more information about it, or tune in. Again, tune in to Week and you'll hear the full story.
Yeah, if you want to stay dry and enjoy it from the inside of your home, that's Nikki's got you covered.
Tune in at Wink at 3. Anyway, guys, so great questions. I want to end this episode on a really good note. So no development is expected for the next 7 days, and that is what we have to look forward to for the next couple of days. Any takeaways from today's episode that you guys want to share with the viewers?
Again, we like it. Hakuna Matata for now. And again, just make sure you just check in with us. That's all we ask, all right? Because again, the time frame that we're looking at for that Caribbean possible development was not going to be until late next week into the weekend. So we're going to enjoy our weekend right now, and we'll think about that next weekend.
Yeah. Guys, anything else? Oceana, what do you think? Nikki?
I'm just ready for another beautiful weekend.
Yeah.
That's right.
There you go.
There's
Yes.
another cold front coming through tomorrow.
Nice.
Saturday's going to be really nice.
Very good. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much, panel, for joining us today. And thank you for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow at 11. Ciao.